Come, gather round, for we have a story to tell. A modern epic, forged not with steel and sorcery, but in the fires of the stock market. This is the Saga of Greatland, and its grand conquest of the Paterson.
Now, before we journey into this tale, you gotta know something important. What you're about to hear is a saga, an allegory. It's a story woven together from the hopes and fears of real investors, the kind of stuff you'd find on passionate online forums. So when you hear names like Judas Gervais or talk of the kings of New Crest, think of them as characters in a play, personifying the very real emotions of this incredible journey.
And you know, this story didn't happen in a bubble. The real world was throwing its own dragons into the mix. We're talking about the insane market volatility after the 2020 pandemic, the wild geopolitics of the last few years, all of it creating its own massive storm of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that hangs over our entire tale.
So picture it, the year is 2020. The world is a pretty dark place. But in this gloom, a single light appears for the people of Greatland. Deep in the earth, the incredible prize of Havieron was starting to reveal its secrets. And suddenly, there was a glimmer of hope, a spark of immense excitement.
But of course, in any great saga, joy is, well, it's often short-lived. And that brings us to our first great test. The first of three terrible sisters who haunt this story, the Crone of Fear. This whole journey, you see, it follows a classic path in the mining world called the Lassonde Curve. And we've just hit the first big drop, right into a valley of death.
And what cast this first shadow? A piece of paper, a contract, left behind by a former leader the saga calls Judas Gervais. Now, in reality, both he and another key figure, Callum, had a hand in these deals. But every good story needs a villain and a hero, right? And the sentiment of the investors, well, it cast them into those roles perfectly. So what was this dangerous contract? It was called the 5% option exercise. Basically, it gave their partner, the powerful Kingdom of New Crest, the right to grab another 5% of the Havieron prize, boosting their stake to 75%. It doesn't sound like much, but that 5%, it meant a huge shift in who really called the shots.
This whole thing led to a showdown, a formal arbitration. Both sides put their secret, conservative valuations on the table. And because they didn't agree, a judge was called in. The verdict? A win for Greatland. The arbitrator agreed with their higher valuation. Victory. But then, in a move nobody saw coming, New Crest just walked away. They refused to buy it at that price.
And that is how the poison of fear starts to spread. Greatland won the battle, but suddenly the victory felt wrong. It planted a horrible question in everyone's mind. If New Crest won't pay that price, is Havieron even worth it? Or was this all just a clever game by their partner to make them look bad no matter what happened? The doubt was terrifying.
In this dark hour, the saga's hero, Sean, knew he needed powerful allies. He called upon a legendary force known as Twiggy and was granted three incredible gifts or boons. First, a shield, a massive wall of funding from top banks. Second, a sword, a powerful new ally in Wailu. And third, wise counsel, a brand new world-class board. The amazing part? You couldn't have one without the others. The banks, the ally, the leadership, it was a three-part spell, and pulling it all together at once was an absolute masterstroke.
All right, so the first crone is banished. There's a moment to breathe, a fragile peace. But you know how these stories go. That peace never lasts, does it? A new storm was gathering, and with it came the second sister, the Crone of Uncertainty.
This time, the shadow was cast by a true titan. The Kingdom of Newmont, an even bigger player, swooped in and basically swallowed Greatland's partner, New Crest, whole. Just like that, everything changed. The entire future of Havieron was now in the hands of a new, colossal king with his own plans. The level of uncertainty was just off the chart.
But wait! Greatland had an ace up their sleeve. A secret spell, a clever clause tucked away in the original deal by the wise Callum. It was called the Right of Last Refusal, or ROLR. And it was simple but powerful. If their partner ever tried to sell their piece of Havieron, Greatland had the right to match the offer and buy it themselves. This little detail was about to become a very, very big deal.
Okay, now this is where the strategy gets really beautiful. See, Newmont decided to sell their stake in Havieron and the old Telfer mine next door as a package deal. And here's the trap. Any other company had to bid on both. But if they did, Greatland could trigger its ROLR spell and say, thanks, we'll just take the Havieron part, leaving the rivals stuck with the old mine they didn't really want. It was checkmate.
It scared off everyone else and put Greatland in complete control.
And the result? Total victory. The new king of Newmont, seeing he'd been outplayed, simply handed over the keys to the kingdom. Greatland didn't just keep their share, they got the whole thing. Havieron, Telfer, all of it. In that moment, Sean became the undisputed king of the Patterson. The Crone of uncertainty had been utterly defeated.
So, 2 Crones down, 1 to go. But this last one, she's different. She doesn't fight with contracts or corporate takeovers. No, this battle is fought in the hearts and minds of the people. It's time to face the most dangerous sister of all, the Crone of Doubt.
You'd think after such a massive win, it would be smooth sailing, but it wasn't. The fight just changed. Now, the people of Greatland were fighting on 2 fronts, the stock markets in London and Australia. It was exhausting. A win in one market would just evaporate in the other. Years of this struggle wore everyone down. It was like they were pushing a giant boulder up a hill every single day, only to wake up and find it right back at the bottom.
So how do you fight something you can't even see, like doubt? You can't hit it with a sword. Sean's final move was genius. He cast one last spell, a modern kind of magic called the spell of SSTS. It was actually a technical move, shifting their shares on the London market to a new, more transparent trading system. The goal? To shine a massive spotlight into all the dark corners where doubt and manipulation love to hide.
And you know what happens when you flick on the lights? The monsters in the dark. They vanish. With this final act of transparency, the invisible grip of those who thrive on chaos began to fail. The power of the Crone of Doubt withered away, and she was banished back into the shadows for good.
So, the battle is won. The 3 crones of fear, uncertainty, and doubt are gone. The conquest is complete. But in every great story, the end of one journey is just the beginning of the next. Welcome to the new beginning.
And just then, a new discovery was made. Remember that old Telfer mine? The one that was just supposed to be part of the deal? Well, it turned out to be a treasure chest in its own right. As you can see, the cash it started pumping out was way, way more than anyone ever dreamed of. That old mine had a lot of life left in it.
This river of unexpected gold gave Greatland something more valuable than money. It gave them optionality. It gave them freedom. The power to potentially build the entire Havieron mine themselves without having to borrow a single coin from the banks. They now controlled their own destiny.
Our saga closes with Sean, the king, standing on a sand dune looking out at all they have built. He's wiser now, and he knows this wasn't the end game. The conquest of the Patterson, that was just the spark that would be used to forge a whole new empire.
And that really is the final question this saga leaves us with, isn't it? After all that struggle against fear, uncertainty, and doubt, what really is an ending? Is it a finish line? Or is it just the starting line for the next great adventure?
The conquest of the Patterson is complete. It was a victory forged in chaos and won with strategy. But it was never the final goal. It was the foundation. The building of the empire has only just begun, and you can be certain there are many more tales yet to be told.